Welcome back to the Explainer, focused learners. Today, we're unlocking something incredibly raw and honestly profoundly powerful. We're talking about David Goggins' transformation playbook, pulled straight from his life story in Can't Hurt Me. Look, if you've ever felt stuck or kind of limited by your circumstances, consider this your ultimate wake-up call. We're going to deconstruct exactly how to build an absolutely unbreakable mind.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit 5 key phases: the making of a warrior, confronting your reality, building an armored mind, shattering your perceived limits, and finally, the unending pursuit. Let's get right into it.
Part 1. The Making of a Warrior. From Victim to Navy SEAL.
Okay, consider the sheer contrast of David's life. I mean, it's wild. He started out as a 297-pound exterminator. He was pre-diabetic, struggling with severe learning disabilities, and surviving some truly horrific childhood abuse and racism. But then, look at the after. He transformed himself into a Navy SEAL, an Army Ranger, a Badwater 135 ultramarathoner, and basically one of the toughest human beings alive. This massive contrast, it proves that the advice we're about to cover is completely battle-tested. It literally has the power to transform anyone, no matter how dark their starting point is.
Just to really hammer home the kind of resilience we're talking about here, 4,030. That's the Guinness World Record for pull-ups completed in 17 hours. And you know what's crazy? It's not just that staggering number. It's the fact that Goggins achieved this after failing twice, and one of those failures was on live national television. That is the exact level of mental toughness we're deconstructing today.
Moving on to Section 2. Confronting your reality. Challenges 1 and 2.
So Challenge 1 is all about facing your bad hand. Goggins asks us to physically write down all our childhood trauma, the bullying, the insecurities, all the odds stacked against us. And I've got to ask you, what kind of bad hand were you dealt? Because documenting this pain, it's not some pity party. You have to accept it as your training ground rather than a victim sentence. You're taking that dark energy and transforming it into literal fuel for your success.
And that leads us to Challenge 2, the accountability mirror. You take all those insecurities and specific goals, you write them down on Post-it notes, and you literally tag up your bathroom mirror. You are forcing yourself to see them every single day. It's about having a brutal, totally honest conversation with yourself. If you're out of shape or maybe underperforming at work, own it. Then, as you actually achieve a goal, you take the note down and replace it. It forces daily, undeniable accountability the second you look in that class.
He says the most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you'll have with yourself. Just let that sink in for a second. The crucial point here is that true change requires us to completely shed our soft, comforting self-talk. You can't visualize lies, right? You have to get completely real with the person staring back at you in the mirror.
Let's jump into Part 3, Building an Armored Mind, Challenges 3 to 6.
We really need to define a unique term from the text here, the calloused mind. This is a state of mental resilience built by repeatedly doing things that suck. You're intentionally exposing yourself to discomfort to overcome resistance. Think about it like this. Just like your hands build physical calluses from gripping heavy steel, your mind builds a protective callus by doing something uncomfortable every single day. Make your bed, run an extra mile in the rain, do the dishes when you're exhausted. You gotta embrace the suck.
Once your mind is getting calloused, you step up to Challenge 4, taking souls. This is a real game changer. You identify your doubters and you work so relentlessly that you surpass their maximum expectations. Got a toxic boss, a doubting teacher? You don't argue with them. You flip the script. You outwork them entirely until you metaphorically take their soul through pure excellence.
Then we have Challenge 5, Visualizing Success. But hold on, this isn't just daydreaming about holding up a trophy. Yes, you imagine what ultimate success feels like, but you absolutely must anticipate the specific obstacles that are going to get in your way. You mentally prepare your answers for when you inevitably want to quit. Now, visualization never ever replaces actual hard work, but it is the secret weapon to staying in the fight when your body is literally screaming at you to stop.
And when you do hit that wall of pain, you're going to need the cookie jar. This is a mental, written list of every obstacle you've already overcome, every trauma you've survived, and every victory you've achieved. You pull from it as fuel when the current pain just becomes unbearable. Get this. During his first 100-mile race, running on broken toes and failing kidneys with literally zero preparation, Goggins reached into his metaphorical cookie jar. He pulled out the memory of everything he had already survived just to find the strength to cross that finish line. Unbelievable.
Section 4.
shattering your perceived limits. Challenges 7 and 8.
40%. This number is absolutely crucial. This is the exact threshold where most human beings just give up. When you feel completely and utterly exhausted and your brain is begging you to quit, you're actually only tapping into 40% of your true capability.
Which brings us directly to the 40% rule. The whole concept here is that you must overthrow your mind's governor. You know, that internal limit that tries to keep you safe and comfortable. So the trick to bypassing this mental governor isn't about doubling your effort overnight. No way. You just need to push 5 to 10% further past your perceived stopping point. Do 5 more push-ups. Run 1 more block. Over time, that baseline naturally shifts.
And if you don't push past that governor, well, to quote Goggins directly, you are giving up instead of getting hard. It's a heavy dose of tough love, reminding us that life is just one big mind game, and you're playing it exclusively against yourself. The only person stopping you is you.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking you simply don't have the time to push harder, you need Challenge 8, schedule your time. Here's how it works. In week 1, you record a baseline of your life with exact timestamps. Then, by week 2, you use that data to build an optimal schedule in 15 to 30-minute blocks. Finally, in week 3, you execute it with extreme compartmentalization. Look, most people waste 4 to 5 hours a day on totally empty habits. This strict framework completely eliminates the excuse of not having enough time.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the unending pursuit challenges 9 and 10.
Challenge 9 is a big one. Dare to be great. It's about becoming uncommon amongst the uncommon by burning every single desire you have for complacency and putting out unending effort. True mastery means you are starting at 0 every single day. It doesn't matter if you're an elite Navy SEAL, a Fortune 500 CEO, or an everyday office worker. You cannot rest on yesterday's trophies. There is always, always more to do.
And guess what? You will inevitably fail in this unending pursuit. That's where Challenge 10 comes in, the empowerment of failure. You must log your failures in brutal detail in a journal. Document what actually went right, list the specific things you need to fix, and this is the most important part, schedule your next attempt on the calendar immediately. Failure isn't final, it's just a data point. When you schedule your next attempt right away, you completely remove the fear of trying again.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, intense question to chew on. If you are only operating at 40%, what does your 100% actually look like? And what are you going to see in your accountability mirror tomorrow morning? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now get out there, face that mirror, and start callousing your mind today.